Hello, Laziali all over the world. This is going to be a funny podcast. I know Alasdair is already laughing, so it's going to be tough to go. But after what happened in Lazio Milan, I think Alasdair cannot complain if I'm talking for 35 minutes about the referee because on Friday it was a completely disaster. And we have to take our time to talk about the performance because I thought Lazio was playing really, really good. Obviously, we missed to take our chances, but even when we were one man down, I thought, Alasdair, the Lazio was playing really, really well. So it's embarrassing because we were playing against a big team like Milan, and even with one man down, and we're gonna talk about all the red cards, we're gonna talk about the Castellano penalties, and we're gonna talk about what Rocky said yesterday. Rocky, who is not aware of his position, is the ref boss in the Italian football. So he talked about what happened on Friday, yesterday night, and I thought it was very interesting because I've been following Italian football for a long period, and I never remember a boss of the referee saying, "Hey, Lazio was right. We got it completely wrong."
So what are you wanting to start on here then? I thought you were leaning towards starting on the positive of a decent performance, and then you've gone straight onto Rocky. So where should we start?
Well, let's start from the penalty, right? The Castellano penalty after, what was it, 15 minutes? That was unbelievable. And the funniest thing about this, Alistair, is that the guy that is responsible for the referee on the zone that has rights for the Serie A keeps saying for a couple of days that was never a penalty. Mm-hmm. And yesterday Rocky said pretty much the opposite. It said, well, it's an ambiguous foul if the referee Di Bello, we didn't mention the referee of Friday still, would have give the penalty, we would have nothing to argue about that. If you watch it on the VR, that's clear penalty, but you have to watch it in real time to have the perfect point of view. I was there. I watched it a couple of times when I came back home. I thought it was a clear penalty all way long. You know, Magnan doesn't touch the ball, or better, he touched the ball, but just because Florenzi deflected the ball, otherwise Magnan got it completely wrong, and he dashed on Castellanos. So that's, for me, it's a clear penalty, Alasdair.
Yeah, this was a slightly strange one, I thought, because at the time I wasn't convinced it was. I thought when it first happened, Castellanos was kind of nowhere near the ball. The move was over when it happened. And actually, it was through one of your many posts about these things that I saw a different angle, actually, after the game, which made me change my mind about it a bit. Because he's not going to get to the ball, but he changes direction to make an attempt to get to the ball, and you don't know what Gabbia, I think it was, is going to do. You know, he might make a mistake, he might slip, whatever. So you can't say for sure that they're not preventing Castellanos from a goal-scoring opportunity there, because he needs to hurdle Mignon to get the chance to challenge Gabbia, and he doesn't get the chance to challenge Gabbia because Mignon brings him down. And the only reason Mignon brings him down is that he's made a terrible error to be in that position in the first place, with that big mix-up between him and Florenzi. So, yeah, I can kind of see why that's been talked about as a bit of a 50-50, because it was a bit of a strange situation, I guess. But I think just in the context of this game, there were so many bad decisions. And I guess if you're talking about 50-50s, it certainly felt like if there were any of those in this game, they certainly weren't going Lazio's way. So yeah, in terms of a place to start, that's probably a good one. I think it easily could have been a penalty, but I don't think it was the most scandalous decision of the day, though.
It was such a dreadful day for Di Bello. But Alasdair, on Friday morning, on the press, an interview of Claudio Lotito comes out, and pretty much the title of this interview was Serie A clubs should sue the Italian FA because we don't have enough power. And after I read that title, without reading the full interview, I said, "Oh my God, Lazio's gonna pay for this," and I didn't expect, honestly, to see it after less than 24 hours. But me and a lot of other people felt like this was a punishment for Lazio after what Lotito said.
So straight into the conspiracy theories.
Why not?
I am not. I mean, you know, kind of my stance on this. I am more than ready this time on this occasion to hammer the referee for a bad performance. I'm still always hesitant to jump in and talk about this being a greater plan against Lazio or something. I think Di Bello just lost his head completely in this game. And it was this kind of domino effect where we just discussed one decision in the first half, but I think it was just one decision after another, and he just lost control of the players. He lost control of the emotional kind of barometer of the game because, and to be honest, in a lot of this match, you should say it's not just Lazio who are getting frustrated. I think he blew 36 fouls or something in 90 minutes. It was the most horrible game to watch because he was making a foul for everything. Every little push or trip or contact was a foul. And that meant that both sets of players were getting frustrated. Both sets of coaching staff were getting frustrated. The crowd was incredibly frustrated. And I think he just completely lost the plot because from the first half onwards, he let the game get away from him. That's what it felt like to me. But to an extent, I should say that I don't think I've seen before. Like in terms of a game getting away from a ref, he lost it in a way that I've just rarely seen.
And I understand, but why? Sari get a yellow card, Pioli doesn't. When Dosi gets sent off, I don't remember if it was Florenzi or another winger of Milan going shouting in the face of the linesman, and he doesn't get a yellow card. So, the concern I have is you can have a terrible game and I accept it. But if you make mistakes only against one team, then I get suspicious. I don't know. Maybe something happened. Maybe at the beginning of the game, Luis Alberto said something wrong to the ref. Maybe Sadi said something. But I don't think if you have a bad game, if you're a bad referee, you make mistakes for both teams. And I don't remember a single mistake. Milan. The funniest thing about this is I had a couple of Milan journalists who were complaining about the goal disallowed to Leao, saying that the offside was the machine was corrupted to show Leao in offside, which he wasn't. So this tells you how bad Italian journalists are talking about conspiracy, etc. But to be honest with you, I don't remember a single mistake from Di Bello against AC Milan on Friday.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's when we're talking about those 50-50 calls, that's why I think Lazio fans do feel aggrieved about that. Even, whether you think that penalty one was a 50-50 or whether it was 100% a penalty, it doesn't really matter because it didn't go Lazio's way either way.
No.
And so few things did. And the 3 red cards we can go through. I mean, the Pellegrini one, I think, has been the biggest talking point, and that's as a result of, again, quite strange circumstances around this. Now, this one is kind of interesting because the bad refereeing wasn't actually showing him a second yellow. The bad refereeing was that it got to that point in the first place because Tati is caught in the face. He's got blood coming out of his face. You stop the game. And I'm sorry, anyone who's trying to make comparisons between this and the Lazio goal against Inter last season when Di Marco went down, it's not the same thing. Because if a player feigns injury and rolls around holding their ankle, it's not the same as someone having blood pouring out of their head. That is literally written into the laws of the game that you're supposed to stop for head injuries. And Pellegrini, for me, lost his head as well. He shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't, no matter what, if you're on a yellow card, don't grab someone by the shoulders and throw them on the ground. So I do think he's a bit at fault for that. But overall, the fault is with Di Bello because it shouldn't have been this position in the first place. And for what it's worth, I don't really blame Pulisic for this. everyone talks about unsporting behavior and so on,
Mm.
but the referee's in charge of that situation. He is doing what anyone who's ever played football is told to do, which is you play to the whistle. The whistle hasn't gone. That's not actually Pulisic's fault, really. I don't necessarily blame him for that, even if it's obviously a bit of gamesmanship. What do you think?
Well, starting for Pulisic, I think he will not win the Fair Play Award recent in this year, definitely.
Yeah.
Everybody, I just rewatched the action. Even Milan players are standing still, waiting for Pellegrini to kick off the ball. So Pulisic, not a great fair play man. I totally agree on what you said about Pellegrini. Till the referee whistle, you have to play. You kick it out. You send it in the stands. That's nothing to worry about. Maybe the ref whistle and you get the ball back, etc. But I especially seeing what Di Bello have done so far in the game, you should expect the worst from the ref. So
That's a
uh,
good point.
kick the ball wherever you want. Uh, get it with your hands if you want to, but don't stay still there. No, don't get it with hands because you get the second yellow card. So kick it in the stands directly. Don't wait for the referee to intervene because he won't. But one thing that we have to talk about is what's the VR doing there? What's the fourth referee doing there? Because it was very close to him, and I cannot believe he didn't see what the foul on Tati Castellanos. So if Di Bello didn't see it and carry on, the other referee or the linesman as well should have signed, called Di Bello and say, "Hey, go and check what happened with Castellanos," because that's a clear foul. Rocky mentioned it yesterday, said that Di Bello was too attracted to what happened afterwards, which is, I cannot believe it. But Rocky mentioned that someone else should have called him and said, "Hey, go and check," because Castellano was hit in his face. And Rocky mentioned that every time a player get a head injury, you have to stop playing. That's it. No discussion. And again, I want to reiterate, a lot of Milan journalists said, this is the exactly thing that happened against Milan Salernitana when Tomori was injured. No, it's not. That wasn't a face injury. That was a simple tackle, etc. So it's not the same thing. It's absolutely not the same thing. The rules are very clear. If there's a head injury, you have to interrupt immediately the play. So big mistake from Di Bello. I agree with you about Pellegrini. He's been a little bit silly. But again, that's a bad mistake. Not only from Di Bello, I would say all the referee crew at the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's Di Bello is clearly at fault for having a terrible game and, like I say, completely losing control, losing his head. But they are a team of refs out there, and this is supposed to not really happen as much now as a result of the communication that's going on between the referee and the guys in the VAR. Even if it's not, a case of stopping the game to look at the monitor or whatever, there is supposed to be more of a constant stream of communication going on between a team of officials to help the right decisions be made. And this felt like it was just a one-man show.
Yeah.
They can't have all agreed with the decisions he was making throughout this game. It's impossible.
I hope not. Otherwise, yeah.
So yeah, and look, did Lazio? You made a good point earlier where you said that Pellegrini should have kicked the ball out because with the way the game was going, you just have to assume the worst with the refereeing. That's a really good point, and I think that comes in later in the match as well, because as ridiculous the two red cards at the end, the whole game just became a farce at that point because it was already one of the most epic kind of disaster classes of a refereeing performance before any of that happened. So, I mean, I think everyone was almost, the ones who weren't screaming were laughing by that point because it was just so ridiculous. And I don't know what Marisic said, but the point you made comes in there again. Like you shouldn't really say anything. The point is, it's so hard not to because he's been so bad.
I don't.
It would be so difficult emotionally to control yourself and not say anything. And
Yeah,
then the Guendouzi one for me is the worst decision of all. I think that is an absolutely terrible decision. As a straight red card for that, it is just such a joke.
you know what annoys me and drove me crazy on Friday is you can make mistake, but if you're a little bit smart, and if you're refereeing in Serie A, you should have a little bit of experience. You can understand what's going on in the mind of Lazio players. You can understand they're nervous. So if Marzuc tells you something, you pretend that you didn't hear it and go for, even because again I remember Milan player protesting as well, and then didn't get a straight red. So this is the most annoying thing, because Maruzic is an idiot, as you said. You know what's going on. You know how the referee is going. So you can get a easy red card for that. So it's hard to control yourself when you're on the pitch, when you're tired. Second half, you're losing a match that you should be winning, etc., etc. But you should be smarter than that. But the referee has experience. He knows what's going on. Pretend to not hear it, and carry on. The thing of Guendouzi is embarrassing again. I thought that was disgraceful. And again, what's the VR doing there? Because you should call him immediately and say, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? That's not even close for a yellow card. Come on."
Yeah, and they're like that is, I mean, some of these cases, how that, like the Pellegrini one is a bit, because it's a bit weird that it was really a second yellow, but it was the
Yeah.
call not to stop the game was
Yeah.
the problem there. That was the bad refereeing. So, but VAR can't do much about that because they can't really interfere and say, "Oh, that's clear and obvious error," because it wasn't. It was just the bad call in the first place. But this is, and it was almost like they just given up by that point. Like, what's the point of interfering with this? The game's almost over. It's been a complete shit show. So let's just get on with it. But it is a big deal because Guendouzi's probably been Lazio's best player in the last few months, and now he's going to be suspended for the Udinese game, and
Yeah.
that is a big problem.
Not
So
only the Udinese game, I fear.
so you look at this and you think, at the time it was kind of like they were just like, well, who cares? 8 players, fine. By the way, this hasn't happened for I think 12 years since a Palermo game. The teams had 3 players sent off, so this is not something that is normal at all. And I think anyone who objectively looks at this game and these decisions, they might say that one is a red or this one is a red. As like I've asked some of my friends who are kind of neutral about this for a perspective, and generally the perspective is like that this one might be, this one isn't. I don't think that's a penalty, or I do, whatever. But there's a bit more balance. That the fact that all these decisions went that one direction is the crazy thing about this.
Yeah, another thing that really drove me crazy on Friday is it looks to me like the VR was off. If it's like Di Bello switched off the button and said, "Hey, I don't want to talk with you all game long," because the only time the VR intervened was the goal of Leao. Otherwise, the penalty of Castellano, they said, yeah, go on. And the 3 red cards, I cannot believe that the VR didn't say anything about that. That's not how it should work. And I have to be honest, I appreciate.
They can't for Marisic, though, can they? Again, it's the second. The
Marisic,
first 2 they can't really do anything about.
Well, the first one they can. They can call Rocky and said, "Hey, Rocky, yeah." Di Bello and say, "Hey, you have to check what happened before the red card, because with the foul on Castellano, it's not a red card, right? The game is up. The ball is stopped because it's a foul. So Pellegrini,
but they can't change that, though, can they?
Yeah, of course, it's a foul.
I don't think they can.
Yeah,
because the game was live when Pellegrini did that. Even if there was an error before that, I don't think you can then go and reverse that decision.
I think absolutely, because it was a foul before the game, before the foul of Pellegrini. So I think that's what VR helps is there for. But yeah, the impression that the VR was off, it's what a lot of people had on Friday. And I appreciate that Rocky yesterday said that it was a bad mistake, it was another mistake, etc. But it's too late. It's too late. Lazio got penalized. And before people ask, there is no chance at all that this game get repeated. Because I heard yesterday some Lazio website saying, Lotito's thinking about asking for replay the game. It's not gonna happen. No, no chance, especially with Gravina still in charge of Italian FA. It's not going to happen. So don't expect this. And to be honest, you think Guendouzi is going to miss the Udinese game? That's a red card, a reaction from a foul. He gets a minimum 2 games, if not 3. Now we have to see if Rocky will, do something about it because it was a mistake. But we really are at risk to don't have Guendouzi for the next 2-3 games in Serie A, which, as you were mentioning, is going to be a big issue for us. I thought Guendouzi was astonishing on Friday. He was everywhere. Lazio was one man down for 30 minutes, and it looks to me like we were one man up with Guendouzi playing everywhere. He was central defender, winger, central midfielder, striker. He was everywhere. So we are definitely going to miss him. But yeah, I think we're going to get 2 match suspension for Pellegrini and Guendouzi, minimum.
Well, I mean, that's surely something that they can do something about if there's been an admittance of error. Surely you can reduce the ban or get rid of it completely. Like retrospectively, you can just chuck out the red card entirely and any suspension. If they're serious about admitting the errors. And look, they kind of they have admitted the errors. Di Bello has been stood down from Serie A for 2 months, I think. So I don't think he's going to referee a Serie A game again until May, from what I read yesterday. If that isn't an admittance that somebody has made a huge mistake, then I don't know what is. I mean, there have been fairly public ones. But Lazio deserve to get something back for that. And yeah, you're right. They're never going to replay the game. Of course they aren't. But they need something. This was a huge game for the season. They've ended up with nothing from it. And the least they can get is having, Guendouzi available for the next game.
Yeah, but let's be honest. The season is over for Lazio. The chance to reach the top 4, it's over. I don't know if we have the chance to get in the Europe League now. So if Guendouzi gets 6-match ban suspension, I mean, we have to focus on tomorrow's game and the Coppa Italia. That's it. I think we don't have any other chance. And you know what's going to happen, right? Lazio going to have a penalty for a foul in the middle of the pitch. And then Gazzetta dello Sport will say, you see, Lazio player blames and this, and now the referee gives a terrible penalty to Lazio. Who cares if we win 7-0 against Udinese? It's not going to change nothing. We're not going to finish in the top 4. The last opportunity was Friday. If you beat AC Milan, it's still very difficult, but you get 3 points back against a team you're fighting against, and you still have an opportunity. With this defeat, you have no chance at all, even if you win the next games or the next game coming in the Serie A.
Yeah, and to turn this now to something slightly more positive, it is worth remembering, because it has been kind of forgotten, that this was a much, much better Lazio performance. I mean, the bar was pretty low after Florence, but it was that they were the better team. They were creating the better chances, having the better kind of territorial dominance. And I thought Alberto was looking really good on the ball again, looking really dangerous. Immobile missed a massive chance. I mean, I don't really know what the hell happened there, but
2 chances.
So there was. The thing is, if it wasn't for all this Di Bello stuff, it like on another day with another referee, I think Lazio win that game, to be honest, because Milan looked pretty shaky, very nervous. They just didn't look dangerous at all. I mean, even the goal they scored, they needed about 3 efforts at it to finally get it into the goal, and even then, Providel almost saved it. So, I think the performance was a reminder that we can turn it on, and this is the annoying thing. It's like I've written something this week ahead of the Bayern game, and I said it's like watching Sarri managing this team is like watching someone trying to start an old chainsaw. You're like pulling the cord and pulling the cord, and it's just spluttering, nothing's working, and then occasionally it just roars and it starts to work. And I was like, that's kind of Lazio this season. They spend most of the time like stalling and stuttering and not being very good. But when they're on it, they do look really good, like they did against Bayern, like they have done in several big matches this season. And it felt like that could have been one of these nights with another referee, because they seem to be mentally really on it. And that is always the difference with Lazio, is if they're focused, if they're switched on, if they're on the game plan, then they can get these results. And they seem to be. But then that mentality, that focus was just gone because they were so annoyed about the refereeing.
Can I finish talking about this game with a funny thing?
Go on.
Talking about Sarri, there was a guy close to me at the stadium who, when Lazio played 4-4-1, started blaming Sarri and shouted, "You see, we can play 4-4-2. This is all your fault. We lost because of you. You didn't switch the tactics, etc." We had one man down. How the hell do you want to play?
I thought we were good with one man down as well.
Because Guendouzi was everywhere. But obviously you have to play 4-4-1, right? You're losing the game. You're one man down. How do you want to play? 4-2-3? 3-3-3? I don't know. I mean, it was obvious. And by the way, by the way, we were playing with 4 midfielders, but one was Felipe Anderson and the other one was Zaccagni. And then, so it wasn't a real defensive mind midfield, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Isaacson was causing a lot of problems on the break with his pace. And I thought that, like, counter-attacking wise, Lazio were playing pretty well down a man, creating as many chances, I felt, as Milan were for up until right at the end. So yeah, I think that was encouraging. You would hope that on Tuesday against Bayern, there's going to be a better ref because it's the Champions League. I have no idea who the ref is actually on Tuesday. I've not looked, but
it's a Slovenian, and there are already rumors that he's very close to Seferin, and Seferin is very close to Bayern. So they're already
here we go.
Theories even there. I'm sorry.
Oh God! So the conspiracy goes all the way up to UEFA, does it? This is huge. But yeah, I mean, look, it's this weird thing, this weird position Lazio in, where we started like a month ago. Basically, everything was still open for this season. This season has been one massive inconsistency, like stuttering and stalling and never quite getting the proper momentum together and not really knowing where the problem lies and focusing on all these different areas of what's going wrong, why it's going wrong, and occasional bursts of being really good. And yet we were still in that position where everything was still available to us. And that, you're right, the top 4, I think you have to say, is gone now. It's just so far away. You require such a credible run of form and for everyone else to start messing up. I think still finishing top 7 would be a realistic objective, which for me is kind of a par. I think that's okay if it's matched with like this run in the Champions League and the Copa. That's not the end of the world. But then the other thing we have to acknowledge is that this game on Tuesday, this is like one of Lazio's biggest European games in the last 20 years. And everyone's so focused and angry about what's happening in Serie A that feels like it's not getting enough attention. This is massive. Lazio 1-0 up against Bayern, Champions League last 16. Only been to a quarter-final once, and that was the year we won the Scudetto. And this is such an incredible position to be in. And there's so much kind of negativity around the team and what's been happening in the league that I think that's almost being overlooked. But a Champions League quarter-final, Vittorio, would make this a season that will be written into the club's history forever, regardless of what's happened in Serie A.
Well, yeah, I think it would be a great achievement, especially because you reached, crossing fingers, the quarterfinals beating Bayern Munich. You didn't reach the quarterfinals because you have an easy draw and you were lucky. Still, it's a very difficult game. I don't. Opta stats last week said Lazio has 51% of chance to go through. I'm not
Yeah.
that optimistic, to be honest. I would have said 40% for Lazio and 60 for Bayern Munich, to be honest. I agree Bayern Munich is not playing great, etc., etc. They're still Bayern Munich. They have experience of playing this game. In the last 10 years, they played this game every single year. They know how to cope with the pressure. They are used to this game. Lazio's not. I hope what happened on Friday would be cancelled, forgotten in this game. Uh, I think the first 25 minutes are going to be key. If Bayern doesn't score in the first 25 minutes, then there's a game. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really complicated for us. But still, I mean, even if we lose, except if we lose 7-0, it's going to be a great achievement for us. I mean, you force. We said it. Remember, before the first leg, we said our goal is to get the second leg with still something to fight on, and we overachieved if you think it that way, because we are not only still in the game, we have an advantage still going to Munich. So that's unbelievable. I think going forward, Lazio should be focusing on the Coppa Italia, to be honest with you, because if you beat Juventus, and I think it's not impossible, you have the chance to win the Coppa Italia. I know you like winning cups, so I think that would save the season and give us a place in the European competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still plenty to play for to make this a good season. It's the Bayern game. I mean, look, this is since that first leg, Bayern have had a win, a draw, and a defeat. They've decided to keep Tuchel until the end of the season, which, I think is probably good news for Lazio, considering how that since that was announced, they've not exactly turned things around. So if we're ever going to get Bayern, this is the time to do it, and the good thing for me as well is, you're talking about the overachieving in the first leg. Absolutely. I mean, nobody saw that coming. Didn't expect that at all. But the good thing as well is that Lazio don't have to do anything differently, I don't think, in the second leg. I think the game plan has to almost be exactly the same. Clearly, it's going to be more difficult because you've got this Bayern team that, if there was any complacency before, there won't be now. They have this pressure on them to perform. They're in front of their home crowd. They know exactly what they have to do. It's going to be a very different challenge for Lazio to repeat that. But in terms of their approach to the game, they can go back to doing what they do best this season, I would say, which is soaking up pressure and then hitting into those spaces when they get the chance. When they do that well, they do that really well, as they did in the first leg. When they do it badly, like against Fiorentina, it goes very badly. So it's hard to know what to expect from that regard, but it's a great position to be in.
We have a couple of question marks for this game. So I'm asking you, do you play Cataldi or Vecino in midfield?
I would probably go Vecino. I'm not sure, really. Cataldi's played quite well recently. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe Cataldi and bring on Vecino. And what would you say?
I think Cataldi, because he has that pass, the deep pass that created a lot of issue to our opponent team against Torino, etc. And the other question I wanted to ask you is, you play Ciro in Tati Castellano. If you play Cataldi, I think Ciro is perfect because he loves that deep ball from Cataldi. He loves playing on the offside line. Sorry, guys. And he can be really dangerous. Tati Castellano, it helps the team, but he hardly scored. We talk about Ciro missing two chances, but Tati pretty much in the first half didn't create absolutely nothing. And I don't think we're going to have 100 chances against Bayern. So you're going to have one or two, and you have to score. So even though Ciro missed two on Friday, I think we have more opportunity to score with Ciro rather than with Tati.
I think the biggest cheer he got on Friday was when he did that like overhead kick clearance from
Oh my
inside
God.
his own box. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So unnecessary.
So dangerous.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that probably will be the way he goes. I guess the other toss up is whether Isaacson or Zakanyi starts.
Yeah.
Probably favouring Zakanyi.
For the experience, you're thinking. Or maybe Anderson. I mean, the problem is you would probably bench Anderson, but he's so important for the defensive side. He defends much better than all the other wingers we have. But every time Isaacson has the ball on his feet, he creates something. And I mean, we have to defend, but if we score once, I don't want to say it's over, but if we're still, if we go ahead, it's going to be really difficult for them to win the game, right? Even because we don't have to forget that they are not in a great moment. So, if you suddenly go down against Lazio at home, I think they're going to be second thoughts. They're going to be doubts there. So,
Yeah, but don't forget that away goals don't count anymore. So
yeah, but if you
it's not
score,
as much of an advantage as it used to be in that regard.
they still have to score 3 goals.
Well, yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think it's a big test in terms of how they mentally recover, and the mentality thing is always a huge question around Lazio anyway. But this is a really, really big test. They're going to have a lot of pent up anger and frustration. A lot of the players were angry after the game on Friday. It was clear to see from what they were saying, from what they were posting on social media, all this stuff, and yeah, like you just need to find a way of kind of dusting that off, or I guess using that in the right way.
yes.
Because but like I say, this is a historic opportunity for Lazio. We need to find a way of shelving that and focusing on this opportunity for what it is, which would be a first Champions League quarterfinal in a quarter of a century. I mean, that is such a big deal.
But at the same time, in this game, we have nothing to lose. I mean, if we lose, no one's going to blame us, right? Say, you lost against Bayern Munich. Yes, we lost against Bayern Munich at a away game. I mean, it's pretty much normal, right? It's going to happen pretty much every single year. So I think they have to play relaxed in a certain way, but obviously fighting on every challenge, because I don't know. Do you think they're thinking we have a huge opportunity because it's never going to happen to play against a Bayern Munich so in distress, or they are going there saying, "Hey, we have nothing to lose. Let's give it our best chance and see what happens."
I don't think the pressure is off in that way. I think that would happen if you're 2-0, 3-0 down from the first leg. You can basically go there and do what the hell you want and see what happens. They've got a lead to protect here. They've got a real opportunity. They've proven that they're a serious team at this level. This is not a case of turning up and being like, let's see what happens. This is all good. That they can compete at this level. They've shown they can compete at this level. And the thing they've not always done is shown they can compete away from home, that they can, I guess, see out ties in this way. The knockout stages have been really difficult in the past, even in Europa League, Conference League last year. And, we've had so little to celebrate in Europe as Lazio fans in the last 20 years. Since that run to the UEFA Cup final as semi-final in 2003, there's been a couple of Europa League quarters and that's been it. It's really, really not been very exciting. So this is huge. It really is, and I hope it brings out the best in them, because I think it's a massive test of this team's character, mentality, all that stuff. See how they can respond to the fury of Friday.
And we're gonna play against Bayern Munich with Isaiah Marusic.
Yeah. Let's hope the Marasic doesn't say anything to the referee in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, I'm looking forward for the game. I think, and I hope Lazio will give it a best shot and see what happens. I mean, Bayern is a better team. Let's be honest. They have so much talent there. The positive thing is we pretty much have every player except Rovella and Patrick. So that's even though I think Rovella is going to be missed, but Cataldi is playing well. So yeah, I think we have an opportunity. Again, I don't agree with the Opta stats, 51%. For me, it's not more than 40. But
cautious optimism.
Yeah, I would say 35%, but let's go for 40.
We need to finish the podcast before you get to zero. You're just like going down and down.
Yeah.
I'd say about 40, I think, is about right for me. Yeah, I still think Bayern are likelier to win this game, if you put it that way. And if they win this game, it means they've automatically leveled the tie. And even if it does go to extra time, then you have to favour Bayern because of where the game's being played. So, we'll see. We'll see. Like I say, I think it's well, we can check back in on this afterwards, and we'll have learned a lot about the team by then, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. Very, very important game for a lot of players to prove doubters wrong, because you were talking about Luis Alberto, but let's be honest, Luis Alberto this season hasn't been playing well. We talk about Ciro Immobile missing opportunity, Felipe Anderson, etc. All these players have a huge opportunity tomorrow night. If they play as we all remember from last year, I think Lazio has an opportunity, and at least you can say, "Hey, we give our best." Simply, they were better than us. So
big game for Sarri as well, though, because there's a lot of attention on this game from across Europe. The way that they've spread out the last 16 ties means that these games get a lot of attention every time they're on the last 16. And Sarri is someone who's very well known across European football, but who's gone under the radar since he came to Lazio, just as a result of not playing in the Champions League and on these kind of stages. So it's a great opportunity for him to. I think the first leg was brilliant from Sarri. I think his game plan was excellent and got the team to execute it really well. If he can pull off, orchestrate tactically a way of knocking Bayern out to the Champions League with this Lazio team, he's going to earn a hell of a lot of respect from outside of the club, and probably deserves to get more respect from the club's fans themselves.
Yeah,
and if they collapse, then it kind of goes the complete opposite direction. So I think it's a huge game for him and for the season as a whole, really.
Yeah, obviously. Do you think if Lazio win, he's going to have a big opportunity this summer coming from a Premier League club, or maybe Barcelona, who's looking for a replacement?
I don't know about that. I mean, but people do react to Champions League runs. If a club makes an unexpected run in the Champions League, that club's players or manager are always more in demand. That is the way that it works. So, God knows. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that would be the biggest shock of the Champions League so far if Lazio pull that off.
Definitely. So if Marusic score a hat-trick tomorrow, then this summer we're going to sell him for
Real Madrid, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, okay. Let's finish it on a positive note. Marusic scoring a hat-trick tomorrow. Because we didn't start it very well. Still.
And then telling the referee to do one.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for listening. I think I behaved myself, right? I control myself more than I expected, to be honest.
You've been very good, Vittorio. We gave it, I think, the right amount of attention. We've gone through it in a good amount of detail, and I think we've tried to be fairly balanced about it, even though we disagree with all of it. I think we've presented different opinions a little bit. So it's not been as much of a rant and rave as I thought you would. So well done.
Yeah, I mean, an extra day helped me to a little bit get after it. But thanks again for our listener. Remember to rate and review the podcast. If you want, we are even on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, please. Help us grow. And thanks to all our Patreon. Membership starts at $2 a month. You can find us on patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. And we'll be back probably after Bayern Lazio to talk about the huge game and maybe looking forward to Lazio Udinese. Take care, guys.
Cheers.